I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars. What's going on, y'all? Clone Wars is back! Season 7, Disney Plus. Wow,
Yes.
I'm Ryan Nilsson. Holy cow, y'all. The Bad Batch, episode 1 of season 7 of Clone Wars. We could not be more excited. This has been a long time coming, Rachel Goodman, and we are all here to talk about it. Let me first introduce my co-host. She is a screenwriter, an author. She's also the host of the Outlander Aftershow. She is Rachel Goodman.
Hey everybody, I'm here representing my Sith lightsaber.
lights.
Yes, because I'm generally on the dark side.
She's generally on the dark side, ladies and gentlemen. And I am Ryan Nilsson, senior producer of Popcorn Talk and the host of Star Wars News. We're just figuring out where we're putting our weapons right now. Oh my gosh. It's been a long time coming.
It has absolutely been a long time, and I think that both of us were noticing those graphics.
A lot of cool stuff. I mean, y'all, we're going to be talking about just the fact that the Clone Wars is back. We're going to be breaking down Season 7, Episode 1, everything from the intro to Squad 99, the Bad Batch, as well as this new villain, this villain Trench. And will that be the center villain for this season involving the clones? Also, is Echo still alive? We think so. We want to know what you think. Comment down below. Again, this is the after show for the Disney Plus return of the Clone Wars. Rachel, overall thoughts. What do you think of this episode?
Well, okay, so the level of everything, like not just the actual quality of the graphics, but the shots we were seeing, It felt live action, and I just remember when the show first came on. I remember the Clone Wars movie.
Right.
This is just beyond anything I ever could have imagined back when this show and movie first came around.
Yeah, 12 years since that first movie, and you know the show has been off the air for around 6 years. I think 2015 was actually the last year. Some episodes were coming out on Netflix, so 5 years. And wow, we were just hyped that this was coming back. Rachel and I have been rewatching the previous seasons just to get caught up, as well as reading like Ahsoka Tano books. We're doing a book club on that. So we've been really, really excited to see what the first few would be. And the first episode, we're following a whole new squad of clones with familiar faces. It looks like Captain Rex, Commander Cody, and Anakin Skywalker are joined by the Bad Batch to take out this outpost by the evil Separatist leader, Trench. And the introduction to this squad was everything for me. I absolutely love this. I think this is such a cool new group of characters. So the way they described them was Squad 99, aka the Bad Batch, are a group of clones with mutations desirable to their combat. What did you think of the squad?
Well, first of all, I felt bad for all the undesirable mutated clones. I'm like, okay, I wonder what they do with those people. These guys, though, I was like, okay, like before we even saw them, I'm like, okay, what is up with them? Why would we have deemed them desirable? What is so special about them? I was slightly concerned that maybe they weren't going to play by the rules and that there was going to be, you know, as we saw, a lot of like competition and just, you know, people getting up in each other's faces between this idea of regs versus the Bad Batch.
Yeah.
And I loved that concept because it makes sense when you're doing, if you are, you know, not that we really do much with cloning now, but like in a sci-fi world where they're cloning, there's bound to be genetic mutations like that. So I'm glad that we're addressing it and actually seeing this really unique group of people, Tech especially. First thought I had was that he's the human C-3PO. That was my mind instantly. I was like, oh.
And that's a cool point you raised, because by stating that they have desirable genetic modifications, that means that there are a group of clones that didn't have desirable ones, and they probably don't let them in combat, or we don't even know what they do with them.
Or kill them
For all we know. So I think that's really interesting that they would even have these characters involved. I love the squad. There's been a couple big squads in Star Wars. I think in some video games there was Inferno Squad, which there's also a book about. There's Delta Squad. It's been a lot of video game squads. I think this is one of the more unique squads. This is very different from any of the other group of clones we've had in this show or in Star Wars in general. And they all had like a little nuance that made them different from the other, starting with Hunter, who's the leader, who we find out last what his big thing is, and his senses are heightened. he's big into stealth. He can hear people coming from a mile away.
I called him Rambo.
He did look like Rambo.
That's how I aside from knowing their names, I gave them all little nicknames just to keep every straight since we were just meeting them.
Yo.
And yeah, Rambo was the nickname I gave him.
Hunter. Yeah. I love that.
With the bandana.
And everything. The scar.
Yeah.
We also had Crosshair, he's a sniper. A good shot. And he has a little bit of a weird haircut we were commenting on, just like white hair and everything, as well as Wrecker, who just consistently yells, "Yeah!" That's his thing. Yeah! But he's huge, like a jacked, almost like a football player in a way. Like his size is bigger than any of the other clones we've met.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because when we had that scene where they're getting shot down, we all at this point we didn't really know them. We didn't know how they were going to handle this idea of Cody being under the ship.
Commander Cody gets hurt,
and Crosshair even says, "Oh, he's not doing this to save him. He's doing this to save the equipment."
Right, he's moving the ship.
Yeah, but then Wrecker does the right thing, and it's from that moment. It's like, okay, yeah, like these people, like they obviously have issues with the regs for probably very substantial reasons, but the idea that Wrecker would go in and do the right thing speaks volumes about who they are as people.
Entirely. And it's interesting to see the differences between the Bad Batch and the regular or not so regular high up clones, because you have two of the top ranking clones with Captain Rex and Commander Cody on this mission, and just how the Bad Batch interacts with these regs, even though they're captains and commanders. Really cool. We got a tiny glimpse of Anakin up top just saying have a good mission. And they're like, "We will, sir," with these new group of people. I just thought it was awesome. You really got a sense of that squad when they take the door from the ship and they go head on, where Captain Rex at first was like, "Let's hang back, let's shoot them from afar." They're like, "That's not our style. We're gonna go right in, guns blazing," and it worked out.
Yeah, and it's just that those unspoken rules between being a reg and being this team, they almost remind me of I don't know, any kind of not the Untouchables, I'm not thinking about them, but just any kind of unwanted group that actually is much more powerful.
I feel like the Dirty Dozen.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of. Yeah, Dirty Dozen.
It's fun. I think that's just it's a cool element that I think other squads or groups of soldiers in Star Wars, they've teased that idea, oh, this squad's a little different from the others. But this was all out from the jump. Oh, they're genetically modified. They have mutations. They are different from everyone else, and in good ways and bad. I think some of them can be a little reckless, and that might get in the way. A few episodes deeper, I think we're going to be with this squad for a little bit, maybe 2 or 3 more episodes. But it's interesting to see what their obstacle is, and the big villain right now is the Separatist Trench, who looks like a spider. He's got 8 little eyes, 2 big here. Interesting villain, and they're taking out all of his outposts and trying to get there, and they get a signal from, what's the number? It was CT1409. Echo.
Yeah, that was so powerful the way they did that, because you don't know if it really is Echo or a trick. There's this whole thing with the algorithm and trying to, replicate it so that they know what their predicted next move is, so they can kind of fight against it. I loved that plot line. I also found it interesting that Trench, it obviously it always varies with the villains, but with him, he almost looked like a mutated version of himself. So I was like, okay, that kind of fits in with the theme right now. And because he had the one eye looked like it was a different part from the right side of his face. So it just, it was interesting. And also that it's that they would, that the,
Squad?
That, well, no,
the Separatist? That
Rex wouldn't even be able to discern that everything they're doing, even going to Skakno Minor, would be following exactly the plan of what the algorithm is suggesting.
And that's the big thing. We actually should have probably mentioned that up top. The whole reason they're bringing in the Bad Batch is because the past few attempts to take this citadel, this area, they've been thwarted because the droids are so familiar with the clones' routines and battle strategies, which also clues in maybe they have a clone held hostage like Echo.
Yeah.
And maybe they're getting all those routines and that information from him. So that's why you got to bring in this kind of out of the ordinary Bad Batch of clones to now try and take that Citadel using unfamiliar tactics to the droid military, which is a really cool setup. Like I just love how we're being thrown right back into the Clone War in these first episodes.
Yeah, and then they mentioned the Anexis and this idea that the only way to beat an algorithm is by using mutated clones. Yeah, because otherwise they, maybe this is the group that's going to go against the grain and do something that no droid would be able to predict.
Totally.
Yeah.
I completely agree. And it's so far working. So we know that they have a connection, and we know that they spoke with Echo at the end of the episode. Like, that was him. We know that was him. And now that's going to be the plan moving forward. Do you think Echo's alive?
I don't think it's going to be that simple. Okay. I'm worried that he's not. I'm worried that it's a manipulation, because Trench recognizes that he recognizes Rex's next move, which will be to go after a friend like that, who, obviously he feels a level of guilt toward after everything with the Citadel. So I feel like it's not going to be black or white. I think that I'm not sure, to be honest, if he is alive, but I don't think it's going to be the Echo that we remember.
We know that they're onto something because of Trench's reaction to, they didn't take anything or maintain control over the Citadel, but they did have a live connection with someone. And his reaction to, they spoke with someone, or they connected with someone virtually, that reaction he had was very concerned. So that means they're on to something that they don't want him to be onto.
And I think what Tech kind of realized too when he plugged in the chip was that it wasn't so much that they had an algorithm to figure out what the crew was going to do next, but because they may potentially have an actual clone with them, they're able to gauge from him what another clone would do.
Right.
Because they are all, made from, they are all the same, technically speaking.
They are, exactly. I mean, overall, what an awesome episode. I'm just happy we're thrown right back into this war and everything. I want to take a moment and just actually talk about the animation style. We were both our jaws were dropped by just the improvement of animation. It looks pretty similar to the other seasons. I'm not saying it was a vast improvement. However, the camera work is one thing that's been really interesting. We were commenting on the entire time. Because I think with animation, the benefit is you're not restricted to a camera. You can do a little bit more with animation than you can in camera. However, the trick is when you make your animation look like it's being shot with a camera, it's just so much more immersive. And there were battle scenes, little fights that with the camera's just moving in and out slowly. You don't get that in other seasons of the Clone Wars.
So my thing is that it still fits the flavor of all the other Clone Wars seasons.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Going back to the movie, I feel like I am watching Clone Wars. But the difference now is that it's in the fine details. Even watching an explosion, you see fine little pieces of debris going everywhere. And I feel like we didn't get that before, not to that high definition level. So that to me was astounding. Also, just seeing, like you were saying, the shots, it felt like we were watching a live action film with the way that they were. I felt like there was actually a cameraman. It didn't take me out of the story, but I felt like there was actually a cameraman kind of following along and tracking this.
Totally agree. I mean, just a beautiful animation. It looks great. I'm glad that there is a bit of an improvement. You can see the Disney Plus money hitting this season of the show. I just love the little idiosyncrasies, the nuances throughout the entire episode. Even the opening shot, just zooming in on that carrier and just their home base and going by all the clone equipment and vehicles. What a shot. You don't get that in other seasons, really. They're few and far between. I'm not saying that the other animation wasn't great, but it's just wow, they really stood out in certain episodes. I feel like this entire episode stood out.
And it's hard because, when the show first came out 12 years ago, it was amazing for its time. And it was still, if you go back and rewatch it, it still looks incredible, just not on the level of what they're capable of doing in 2020.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
I'm hyped about this. I think we should go on to just a few predictions moving forward. So Rachel Goodman,
AfterBuzz
TV prediction. What is your prediction for the rest of the season right now?
Oh man, for the rest of the season.
Maybe related to Squad 99 and these clones.
So you had mentioned that you thought maybe they would only be around for a couple of episodes episodes, and that was it
Right.
for the Bad Batch. I think we are going to see them for a little bit longer. I feel like that's why we're starting with them.
Oh yeah.
I also feel like I keep waiting for Ahsoka's mention, because we know from our book
I
club
know.
that this is going to happen at some point where she comes back into the picture. So I keep waiting for some kind of hint, and I feel like the connection to Ahsoka is probably...
So you think they're gonna have something to do with bringing Ahsoka
I
back?
think so, because she would, just from what we've read from the book too, by E.K. Johnston, in case anybody wants to go out and read it.
Check it out.
Yeah, you should. It's really good. But just from what we've read, I feel like she'll always have that connection with Rex, but I feel like she was very much on the outskirts of things. And so becoming involved with the Bad Batch, that sounds more reasonable, especially with what we saw with her leaving at the end of her time on Clone Wars.
Yeah, I'm predicting. I definitely think Rex is gonna have something to do with bringing Ahsoka back, just because we knew they had that tight relationship. In terms of the Bad Batch, I actually don't think we're gonna see a lot of them moving forward. I think they're gonna take the majority of the story for the next couple of episodes. The thing with the Clone Wars is that when they do this really well, they have a pattern of stories that might last 3 to 4 episodes, and they're almost like a movie altogether. I think even the Clone Wars movie in 2008 was just supposed to be 4 or 5 episode arc, and they were like, let's just make that a movie, which I don't think was the best idea. But I think they're going to last for maybe like 3 or 4 episodes, and then we're not going to see them again. And if we do, it might just be a pop-up towards the end of the season. I think the majority of the season is going to be centered around Captain Rex, and just the characters we're familiar with. I'm talking Anakin, I'm talking Yoda, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan. I think right now this is just a nice little tea, a little refresher, a little appetizer, if you will, to get back into the Clone Wars. And that's, I think, all we needed.
And that's what I'm most interested for, is what happens with Anakin.
Right.
Because, and I just rewatched the prequel movies recently. There's too much of a jump between, episodes 2 and 3.
Well,
and
do you think that they're a little handicapped, though? I think they're a little handicapped with what they can do with him this season, because we know what's happening right around the corner. I mean, do you think they can do more?
I think from watching the trailer, it seems like they're going to do more.
Yeah.
I hope so, because, I want more. I want to know. I just feel like there's things, like, they don't have to give us so much that, obviously
Right.
they want to stay within what we already know, but I feel like they can show us certain things that explain why at the very end Anakin is really triggered and goes over the deep end.
We'll have to see. So, y'all, please keep tuning into our Star Wars Clone Wars after show. We're so excited Season 7 is back, and we're going to be here every week when another episode releases. Rachel, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Rach Goodman, or on Instagram on my author Instagram account at Rachel Radner Author, or also at Rach Goodman. Also not today actually, on Sundays, you can catch me on the Outlander after show for Season 5.
Terrific. Love Outlander. You can follow me at Ryan Nilsson _ on Instagram. That's NILSEN, and at Ryan Nilsson on Twitter. And Popcorn Talk Network, Thursdays, 4 p.m. We're doing Star Wars news with Steph Sabra. Check us out there. Until next time, y'all. Peace.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.